So, next topic. For some reason, you want to talk about the NCAA tournament. Go.
Well, the reason Eric doesn't want to talk about the NCAA tournament is that, well, I'm kind of crushing him. And look, we've both been wrong about a lot. In fact, we were wrong about a lot of the same things. We were wrong about Missouri. We were both wrong about Syracuse. I was extra wrong because I filled out my bracket before it turns out that Mello wasn't going to be able to play for them. We were wrong the last time we did our mini-cast on whether or not Florida would go a long way. I was wrong about whether or not UNC would make it this far. But ultimately, I have Kansas and Kentucky in the championship game, which means I'm going to win. I don't know that I feel that great about it. Let me say just a couple quick things about what's been happening, and then we can talk about the Final Four. If you listen to the last minicast, which you can still get on MissedOnPoints.com, if you listen to that, there was exclusive statistical analysis that I did that indicated that years when there are a lot of upsets early in the tournament do not always produce Cinderellas late in the tournament. And in fact, that is exactly what has happened this year. This year tied for the second most upsets in the first round since 2000. And here we are in the Final Four with 0 teams seeded higher than 4. So as much as this year seemed like, wow, it's a crazy bracket-busting year, we are once again in a situation where we've got no team seeded higher than 4. And at the end of the day, I don't know what that means. In fact, I was sitting around at dinner tonight with my wife kind of trying to explain to her what I felt that meant, and I had to conclude it just means there's not a lot of pattern in the way that the brackets play out based on what happens in the first round. And so here we are. So let me ask you a couple of questions, Eric, unless you've got something else you want to say about this whole process.
I think what it means is that there's only one dominant team. I think we're going to talk about this in a second. But in an era where there's kind of like one clear-cut team that's above everyone and a lot of parity, and like you said in the other podcast, matchups, I think ultimately what ends up happening is that you get kind of what we've seen, which is upsets early, and then it just kind of fall into form. If you notice, I don't think there was an upset per se in the Elite Eight, with the exception of Kansas versus Carolina, and Carolina was without its starting point guard who broke his wrist.
And that wasn't really much of an upset, given that a lot of people felt like Kansas should have been a 1 seed in the first place.
Exactly.
And Kansas was the 5th 1 seed this year.
They were.
And at the time, I felt that they really got slighted in that sense not because I thought they were so great, but because I thought North Carolina wasn't. Clearly, North Carolina was better than I thought. But here's I've got a couple of questions. My first question is...
Whoa. Is this rapid fire?
Okay, sure. Do we want to bring the rapid fire noise?
Really? You're just going to sneak in on me with a rapid fire?
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. No, it's fine.
We have a thing we have to do.
No, I'm a little upset about this.
All right. Are you going to play the sounder?
No. You wait your turn.
All right, hold on.
No,
Are you going to play the sounder or not?
Oh, it's coming. Rapid fire.
I don't know why that's so funny. Most of the people listening to the podcast right now are like, it's not. Anyway, here are my rapid fire questions for you. Last year was a big Cinderella year. Tied for the most seeds above 4 in the Final Four ever, or at least since 2000. This year, we got a 1 versus a 4 and a 2 versus a 2. Are you more excited for this year than you were for last year?
No. Last year was more interesting because it had VCU and Butler, and it had that Cinderella feel to it. I'm not gonna lie, the way Kentucky is playing, it makes it just kind of like you're waiting for them to go ahead and raise the banner in Kentucky's name. They are the best team far and away above any other teams in the Final Four. I think they won't throttle Louisville because it's a rivalry game, but it'll be clear. And then they will play probably Kansas, and they will throttle Kansas. God forbid if they play Ohio State, because Ohio State ain't ready for this. So that's why I'm not excited.
Let me skip around. I think I may be more excited than I was last year, but let me skip ahead and ask you a question since you say this. Are you sure, given the way that Kentucky has played on the whole during this tournament, that you're not giving Kentucky too much credit for the last game they played? Are you, excuse me, catchphrase, cliche coming, a prisoner of the moment?
No. but you also have to understand, I had Baylor beating Kentucky. So I was very high on Baylor, and they ran them out of the gym. And it's kind of one of those things where, to use a boxing analogy, if I'll give a little bit of historical presence. Before Roy Jones, who was probably the greatest fighter I've ever seen in my lifetime, he was fighting someone named James Toney. When I say Roy Jones, I'm 33. I only know boxing for about 25 years. Roy Jones would beat the shit out of Ray Leonard. There, I said it. But Roy Jones was about to fight James Toney, and James Toney, everyone thought was a monster. People kind of knew Roy Jones. Roy Jones annihilated James Toney, and everyone went, ooh. When what I saw Kentucky do to Baylor made me go, ooh. And I feel like maybe I've undervalued Kentucky. I understand everyone wants to get on the Louisville bandwagon because Louisville is doing the Connecticut thing, running through the Big East tournament, win the tournament, run through the Final Four. But Kentucky didn't have to. UConn didn't have to play this type of team. No. I am not a prisoner of the moment. This Kentucky team is deep. It's good.
Oh, it's not deep. Wait. It is not deep. They play 6 guys.
That's the deepest 6 guys I've ever seen in my life. Look,
nice recovery. Well played.
It reminds me of the UNLV teams where they had all that NBA talent. They played like 7 guys. They look deeper, or they feel deeper than what they maybe truly are.
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse was clearly really deep. In fact, a lot deeper than I thought they were, than I gave them credit for being. But Kentucky's really good. All right, well, since I think I may be more excited, and then let me ask you a couple of questions about the 2 games we've got coming up. A lot of people, and I think we already know your answer to this question, but a lot of people seem to be giving the Louisville Cardinals a lot of credit, a lot of possibility for winning this game because it's Pitino versus Calipari. I heard several times over the course of the weekend, once this matchup came up, that Pitino can outcoach Calipari, and that since Kentucky isn't a very deep team, that Louisville has a really strong shot to beat Kentucky. My question is, do they?
Sure, it's a rivalry game. These kids aren't afraid of Kentucky. And they've seen Kentucky a bunch because they're in the same state. Some of these kids play together on AAU teams. No, they're not afraid of them. Yeah, they can win. They've got a good point guard, and they play very rugged defense. If they could get Kentucky in foul trouble, and as you say, Kentucky is not deep. Sure, they could maybe hold off and win the game. I just think Kid Gilchrist and Anthony Davis and I think it's Lamb, the point guard, and a couple of other guys. There's too much talent there. I think ultimately the final score seemed wider than what the game is, but I like the guys in Vegas has it 9 points right now. I think 9 points is spot on.
Fair enough. Let me ask about the other game. So who are you calling to win that game?
I got Kentucky by 9.
All right. The other game is 2 seeds, but I'll tell you what. My first question about that game is, it's Kansas at a 2 seed, Ohio State at a 2 seed. Does that feel like an even matchup to you?
No, but I'm very low on Ohio State. I thought Ohio State played in the weakest region, and it got weaker because Fab Melo was ruled ineligible. No, Ohio State has an easy run to the Final Four. I think again, Kansas has better talent. They have better NBA talent. I forget the kid's name that plays for Ohio State that everyone's in love with, but I don't think he's very talented. I think he's an oversized 4. I think Kentucky wins that game handily.
You mean Kansas?
Kansas, thank you.
Yeah, for my money, and I know that Louisville's the lower ranked team, but for my money, Ohio State feels like the Cinderella in this Final Four to me, both in the sense that there's not much about them that's associated with traditional basketball powerhouses, and the fact that they don't have Pitino. Admittedly, their coach is more famous than a lot of coaches in that sense, but sure. Kansas seemed underranked to me, or underseeded in the tournament, and Ohio State seemed overseeded to me, so it feels like a bigger gap. I'm actually picking the exact same way on both games as you. I think Kentucky wins.
Yep.
I think Kansas wins. I
Yep.
think if either of the two games is going to be real close, it's going to be Kentucky-Louisville because of familiarity and because of the fact that Pitino hates Calipari, apparently.
Yep.
And honestly, who doesn't hate Calipari unless you're a diehard Wildcat fan? And even then, you don't like him too much. You're happy that he's there. He's the Danny Ainge of coaches. You hate him, but you're happy he's on your team instead of somebody else's.
All right.
So yeah, I kind of feel like that's where that is. So then let's call it now. My final question on rapid fire is: if Kansas and Kentucky both win, who wins the championship game?
Kentucky, not close.
I agree with you. I think if Kansas makes it, it'll be Kentucky, and it won't be.
It'll be a better game if Kansas makes it.
Yeah, I think Kentucky versus Ohio State is a blowout.
Yeah.
So hopefully, for the sake of good basketball, we'll see Kentucky-Kansas. And honestly, I think that will be a higher rated championship game considerably than last year's was, because you've got two teams that are associated with great traditions in basketball. And unlike football, it almost doesn't matter what size of a city your team comes from, what region they come from, if they've got that tradition associated with them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that is the end of.
Oh wait, I had to play the intro.
Got to work on
I got to play it again.
Yes.
Oh, you love it, don't you? Yes. That was rapid fire.